Hi, I'm Brian from HMD Labs, and today we're going to give an overview of data modeling at an enterprise scale. Really, we're going to focus on what does data modeling mean? What are various data modeling techniques? What are some layers in different kinds of data modeling? How do we see interplay? And we're going to spend a fair bit of time talking about master data. I think master data is everywhere. I guarantee you have some. Some of it's probably not great. So we're going to play Where's Waldo with some master data and learn how it becomes a key that we can use across the layers in our architecture. So what is data modeling in the most abstract sense? It is an attempt to capture reality, so people and documents and tool interactions. Remember, we're going to talk about Brian and his bicycle. So bicycles and vision and temperatures and wind. And we have a lot of reality down here. And data modeling is simply trying to capture some part of reality in a computer system so that we can get repeatability, so that we can understand things about the world. All software to some degree requires some data modeling, whether you're building microservices or data warehouses. And that's a big piece of what we want to focus on today is where do the different kinds of models interact with each other and why? Are there patterns that we can start to derive? So data modeling is very broad. And let's start by talking about layers. So there are a few different ways to slice data modeling. We're going to use a very old classic data information, knowledge, wisdom pyramid. So you'll see this a lot. I did what everybody does, which is added my own thing to it. So I've added this layer down here called reality. Usually by the time we get to data, we're already capturing a very small subset of reality. And we're going to talk about this in our example. Let's talk about our example. Brian bought a blue bike from Tom as a sales lead on November 21st, 2022 at a branch location X. We're not sure which one. And it was missing the owner's manual. So we're going to talk about data modeling across this and where you might find different parts, where we might find this one simple statement manifested through this stack. We're going to play Where's Waldo with the master data. We're going to talk about master data and attributes in here. And we're going to talk about how this fits into an enterprise master data model, right? So remember, I bought a blue bike from Tom. It was missing the manual. Okay. So at the bottom, we have reality, and let's move up to data. So what does data usually look like? It usually looks like what we call transactional systems. So transactional systems is order entry, it's manufacturing tracking, it's HR applicant tracking, it's accounting systems. There are any number of transactional systems down here. When we think about data modeling, we tend to see things like object-oriented modeling. So very rich, sort of object graphs. We see things like Protobuf, again, kind of an object graph based modeling tool. We see OpenAPI, again, hierarchical, transaction based. If you go way back in history, you see EDI and other transaction standards. So this is the data layer. And, from a modeling standpoint, implementation wise, we spent a lot of time looking at relational databases. We stored a ton of stuff there for forever. We still do. We saw this real emergence of NoSQL databases and document and object-based databases. Really, a lot of that is because going from these hierarchical, complex nested models into highly complex, highly normalized relational databases across, there's a lot of reasons why sort of breaking this apart and taking these and moving into NoSQL helps you, right, in terms of developing transactional applications. Over here, right? So common acronym, we see OLTP, online transaction processing. And let's look at the interactions. So we oftentimes see a lot of interactions between systems at this layer, transactional high-speed interactions, right? So again, Protobuf, OpenAPI, you see lots of remote procedure call style stuff in here. This is where you find lots of messaging, right? So you'll see enterprise service buses and SOA and event stuff and RPC stuff. All at this layer for sort of horizontal movement, right? Because you're trying to enable business transactions across systems down here, right? So you're moving objects around, getting things done. Up one layer now. So data is transactions. It's sort of generally the lowest level model of reality that we have. And to be clear, like a scan, we talk about unstructured data and we just sort of, oh, it's not real, right? It's like, oh, it's unstructured. But a scan of a document is, very much an object. It is data. We just oftentimes, haven't extracted other data from it or pushed it up to the information tier. So let's talk about this information tier. Again, I'll give it a brief overview. Usually we talk about contextualizing here. I think in common practice, what we see is transactional systems integrating as best they can down here. And then you see this vertical movement, right? And so you see this E and T and L, you see all manner of extract, transform, load here, right? You see transactions trying to go up, and you're getting into a smaller set of systems here, right? So you're consolidating from a whole bunch of transactional systems into a smaller amount of reporting systems or integration systems. This is where we see relational data warehouses, right? Like lots of cool tabular stuff in here, tabular models. So what kind of models do we see? Far more tabular models here. We're seeing an emergence of graph models here. And I think there's a challenge, like with any new data technology, right? With any new compute engine, we say, hey, we finally have a compute engine that works, use it for everything in here. And I think, I put graph at the information layer. I think we're going to talk about information modeling is much more graph based, but maybe data modeling can be a little bit more object based. There's a discussion there about the richness and some of the implementation details in those different modeling techniques. But this is, again, ETL moving up. Let's talk about this master data column in the middle, because you see it kind of transcends. And, what is master data? By the time we've got a data layer, we've got some transactional apps, and we have some information, we're trying to consolidate, transaction across these different applications. Maybe some of them we built, some of them are SaaSes. Maybe we've got bicycles out there. So we're going to talk about electronic bicycles that we bought. They're sending data in, right? Like they're sending protobuf messages in. So there's lots of data coming in here. We're trying to contextualize it and organize it and bring it up to information so that we can do more with it, right? Like we want to make a different kind of decision down here. Down here, the decision we're trying to make is what's the next thing? What's the next person who takes an action? What's the next, email that gets sent? Up here, we're trying to figure out how are things going down here, right? Like, are things connected well? Are things moving fast enough? This becomes to be the analytical layer, and it's where you start to have master data challenges. So what is master data?